You are now watching The Meech.
If you've been a Nintendo fan for quite some time, you probably uttered the phrase, "Why does Japan get all the good stuff?" It seems that Japan gets a lot of exclusive games, which is true. Some examples of this include Mother 3, Captain Rainbow, and even Donkey Konga 3. I have a few right here. We have F1 Race on the Famicom, which really surprised this didn't release in the West since it's just a pole position style racing game. Then we have a game like this, Ninja Hattori, which I'm not surprised didn't release in the West since it's a fairly unknown series here. And then you have really weird cases where games are released only for a few select markets. This right here is Mario Super Sluggers on the Wii. It was only released in North America and Japan, and never saw a release in Europe or Australia. And if you live there, I feel so sorry for you, because this is one of the best Mario sports games of all time. But let's take a look at a very strange case today. We have a Mario game exclusive to Europe. It didn't release anywhere else. It's very weird that this happened, but it somehow happened. So we're taking a look at the Europe exclusive Mario game. Now what is this game exactly? This is Mario Bros. Classic Series on the NES. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't this just Mario Bros. Arcade? Well, yes and no. As you can see, the cartridge art is different. Really love Kotabe's style right here. Perfectly captured the arcade Mario Bros. However, this version has a few slight differences, so we're going to take a look at it. Now before we take a look at it, I just want to bring this up. If you have a North American NES, you will not be able to play this game unless you have the top loader right here. Now this top loader right here was a good system at the time, but it has a lot of problems connecting to regular TVs. This only uses RF, and it's not ideal. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use a clone system being the Retron HD, which can output to PAL, HD, and just works pretty good. I will warn you that it has a few sound inconsistencies, but other than that it works great. So what is this European Mario game like? Time to find out. Once you start up the game, it looks pretty much identical to the original black box version on NES. But there is one key difference. You see the copyright of 1993? Well, there's a reason for that. So we're going to get into the game, take a look at why it's different. We're going to do Game B because I'm actually pretty good at Mario Brothers. Definitely out of the classic arcade games, this is the one I'm best at. So let's begin. As you can see right here, there is one key difference already. The intermission from the arcade version is included in this NES version. If you played the original black box version on NES, this wasn't included. Likely to save space on the cartridge since they couldn't store much data. And it was a very early NES game. I was going to say Famicom because that counts too, but the difference here is that it's already much closer to the arcade. The shell creepers look a lot closer in design to how they originally did in the arcade, and everything looks so much better here. So as you can see, the shell creeper turned red. Yeah, that's the last stage. They would turn purple in the middle stage. And that's one difference. They don't turn purple, instead they flash red and green. So think of them as Christmas lights. So another difference is that we're in stage 2 right now, which was cut from the original black box NES version. I don't know why. I'm guessing to save storage space. But this was also just a little bit harder than the original first level. It's only one more shell creeper. So we're just going to knock out some of the shell creepers, get some coins. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about the original Mario Bros. Arcade, because it's often overshadowed by Super Mario Bros. But really, this is the start of where a lot of the Mario series took place. I mean, this was the introduction to Luigi right here. You got the pipes. Shell creepers were a precursor to Koopas, but either way, it's still turtles, so it counts. So we're just going to get this last shell creeper right here and move on to the next stage. Now I'm going to show you one other key difference you'll see during gameplay. You see what I just did there? You can change direction in midair. If you played the original on NES or the arcade version, they don't allow you to do that. You can only jump in one direction. Alright, that botched my plan right there. Because what I like to do is I like to keep one shell creeper in one area and then hit the PAL block to rack up some points. We could still do that, but we're not going to get as many points as we would otherwise. So we're just going to knock one over. Alright, now's my chance. There we go. So if you get a bunch of them in a row, you can really rack up points, get some extra lives. There we go. And now we're in the bonus round. Now these controls right here make the game so much more fun to play. Even more fun than the arcade version. Because if you've ever played Mario Bros. On the Game Boy Advance with Mario Advance or Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, this is how it controls. Well, in the original, it was a little more finicky. It didn't feel as bad as something like Ice Climbers, but this feels great right here. And we are in the second intermission right here. this introduces us to the sidesteppers right here, and this was also not included in the original Black Box NES version. Really nice! Now the sidestepper sprites were a lot closer to the arcade in the original Black Box, but these are just identical to the originals. As you can see, everything looks great. But yeah, this is a really good port of Mario Brothers. I would probably say that this is the best way to play the original Mario Brothers, simply because the controls are better, everything looks close to the arcade, and overall, if you want to play Mario Brothers, the ones I recommend the most are this version, the arcade of course, and maybe the Game Boy Advance one, although I found that one to be a little bit too easy. Like with these arcade games you expect a lot of difficulty and that's what makes them so much fun, but on the Game Boy Advance, things are made a lot easier. Like you can get more extra lives, the POW blocks reset, I think there's 2 of them actually. So there we go. Also in the Game Boy Advance version, they changed Shell Creepers to Spinies, which I think it was catered to the modern Mario audience where you know if you jump on a turtle, you could get the shell and knock enemies over, but here you have to flip the enemies upside down. Now this game right here, I gotta say out of the retro arcade games, this has to be one of my favorites despite being somewhat overlooked. So we're just gonna get the Shell Creepers. There's gonna be one more sidestepper, and he is not gonna be happy. So once we see him, oh, I think there's 2 of them. Once you get to the final enemy, I'll show you a good example of what happens. They changed to purple. It was like a bright purple in the arcade. It's blue right here, but still looks much closer to the arcade. So we're just gonna avoid the fireball and get this last Shell Creeper right here. There we go. But out of the original arcade games that Nintendo made, this is definitely one of my favorites. So going over some of them, we have Donkey Kong, of course, which is a classic, another one of my favorites. Donkey Kong Jr., a little bit underrated, I would say. Not a lot of people talk about it, despite it being really successful. And when it comes to the gameplay of Donkey Kong Jr., I do find it to be not as good as the original Donkey Kong, but still a great time. Then we have Donkey Kong 3, which changed up everything, where it became a shooter and a platformer combo. And a lot of people don't like the game, but I actually like Donkey Kong 3. Out of the original trilogy, I definitely prefer the first 2 over Donkey Kong 3. But it's still a cool game, and if you really want to get technical, we could include Donkey Kong 2 on the Game & Watch, which is essentially the first, or the last 2 levels from Donkey Kong Jr. combined, and it's a pretty good game. Despite the technology being LCD technology, it plays great. As you can hear right now, there's a garbage truck in the background, so ignore that. But if Mario and Luigi were garbage men, you know, I still think the games would be great, so without them, we don't know where to put our trash, so thank you. Alright, we are just gonna knock out this level. I really like how the backgrounds change, like, for example, in the original Mario Brothers stage, the first one, it uses the blue platforms, then it turns to yellow, and then you got these pinkish-orange ones right here. Sidesteppers are the hardest enemies to avoid along with the fireballs. As you can see, I just got hit by one. So we're just going to try to get this last, or I think Fighterfly is his name. Yeah, Fighterfly. So we're just going to try to get him. One difference with the Fighterflies is they don't increase in speed unless you hit them and then they get up. They just jump around the stage. They're easily the hardest enemies to knock over with the POW block. So we're just going to wait for more of them. Now I'm wondering if any of you guys have ever played Mario Clash, because that's another game I might cover. It was a reimagining of Mario Brothers on the Virtual Boy. Pretty cool game. Not one of the best Mario games for sure, but definitely a cool experience nonetheless. I wish it was something more like Donkey Kong 94 though, because that game is so great. Really captured Donkey Kong perfectly, really reimagined it great. But Mario Clash, it didn't feel as polished. I guess if it had more of a story and a world map and just more mechanics, it'd be cool. But it's still a fun time. I guarantee a lot of you haven't played it because it's on the Virtual Boy, but hey, if you have, just please let me know what you think. Also, if you played Mario Brothers, I'd love to hear what you think too, because this game, it's so underrated. We're just going to get the sidesteppers and the Fighterflies right here. It's really hard to pull off combos right here, so we're going to make the Krabs mad. We're going to make the Krabs just as mad as Mr. Krabs if he was losing money. There we go. Gonna wait for some of the enemies to drop down, avoid the fireballs. You can rack up some really good points by hitting the fireballs. There we go. Specifically the red ones. Nintendo doesn't seem to like green anything as much as red, and this is a very early example of that. So we're just gonna knock over some of the Fighterflies. Maybe we could get a combo there. There we go. Pretty nice combo right there. Alright, get some coins. Knock over the Fighterfly. I was gonna say Shell Creeper. So the enemies, turtles, Shell Creepers, Crabs, Sidesteppers, the flies, fighter flies. I mean, when you go in a sewer, of course there's going to be all those animals. And if there were, I don't think anyone would ever want to be a plumber. So there we go. Props to you, Mario, for dealing with the stuff that no one else wants to deal with. So we are in the ice bonus stage right here. Made a lot easier with the better controls. So overall, what I think about this game, I think that if you're going to play the original Mario Brothers, this is definitely the way to go. But the game is more obscure, it's never gotten a re-release, so you would have to track down the NES copy, or just do what a normal person would do and emulate. So, we can see that there's a cutscene right here with the Slip Ice. You might recognize him from Super Smash Bros. Right there, because he's an item. So, once they start appearing, it freezes the stage. So I think we're going to play one more round and about wrap this episode up. But yeah, if you love arcade games, and you love Mario Brothers, and you have a chance to play this game, I'd highly recommend it. I think the original cartridge is a little bit expensive if you live outside of North America. And you also, or I mean, not if you live outside of North America, if you live in North America or anywhere but Europe, because the game was never released here. It was a PAL game. It was released fairly late into the NES's life. So you gotta keep that in mind. But if you can find it for a good deal, I'd highly recommend it. I did check some of the prices on European eBay sites, and they seem to be pretty reasonable. But it just depends if you want to pay that much for Mario Brothers. I would say if you're a hardcore collector, this is definitely worth getting. But overall, it's worth a play even if you have to emulate it. So one thing I really need to bring up is that if you have an original NES, I said this at the beginning, but I'm going to say it again so there's no confusion, you won't be able to play this since the original NES is region locked. If you have a top loader or clone system though, you'll be able to play it just fine. We're just gonna knock over the Shell Creeper, not Shell Creeper. I always get the names confused. Shell Creepers and Sidesteppers. Like, whenever I see a turtle, I think Koopa automatically. But this is the original Mario Brothers. This was before they were Super. Just gonna see the Fighter Fly right here. I think there's just one more enemy. So we'll let the Slip Ice do his job. Freeze the platform, make my job a little bit harder. There we go. But yeah, this game is very enjoyable. I'm really liking it. And it's even better with 2 players. There we go. We made the crab really mad. Turned blue. Wow. Pretty nice right there. So yeah, this was Mario Brothers Classic Series on the NES. Curious to know what you guys thought about this episode. If you have any requests, please leave them in the comments for games I should cover. And as always, keep calm and da-da on.